Greetings and welcome. My name is Mike Bankhead. I am your host. I am a bass player and songwriter from the Gem City, Dayton, Ohio. On today's episode, number 107, I have with me Max B. Greene, who is also a musician from the Gem City, Dayton, Ohio. And we're going to discuss the blues, cigar box guitars, and all kind of interesting things on the You Could Be My Aramis podcast. This episode is brought to you by We Met in Paris, my transatlantic duo, and our new single Mont Blanc Massif, which is exactly 6 days old. Well, 7 days old today. Please go listen to it anywhere you stream music. That's Mont Blanc Massif by We Met in Paris. Here's the conversation. So, you're Max. How about introducing yourself to our audience, please?
All right, I'm Max B. Greene. I am a musician based in Dayton, Ohio. I have been playing around this area since the mid 90s, so nearly 30 years now, off and on, doing a lot of open mics and stuff like that. I remember playing out at Canal Street, played out at Canal Street a fair amount back in the day. I play rock and blues for the most part. Over the last couple of years, I switched to cigar box guitars that have only 3 strings. In fact, I haven't played a 6 string in like 4 years. I just play 3 strings, and I just started on a 4 string. And I also build guitars. I build cigar box guitars. I've got a shovel guitar that I've almost got done, and I just finished making a steampunk themed guitar out of copper pipe, and it sounds like a beast. It's be good for heavy metal, I guess. But
Pun absolutely intended.
Somebody was going to make that joke sooner or later.
Had to.
So,
That's a lot of stuff. Let's start with what is this that I'm holding in my hand?
oh, my box is full of blues.
Yeah,
That is my
let's
latest
talk about
CD. That is my latest CD. I put out, I guess, 3 CDs now. That is my latest. I started working on that 2.5, almost 3 years ago. I was actually taking care of my father. I was living at his house, and he was, elderly, and he was passing away, and I was taking care of him. And while I was living there in one of the back bedrooms, I set up a studio and started recording blues songs on cigar box guitars. So all these were recorded myself on a computer using a microphone going direct into the computer. I did use a drum program for the drums because I can't play drums, but they sound pretty good. But I played and sang everything else. I played the bass, played guitars, did all the vocals, did all the recording, all the engineering, all the mastering, all the graphics. Basically, I'm a one-man show.
That's a lot of work.
It is. Well, like I said, I've been working on it it's been nearly 3 years now. I recorded some new songs this year, like 3 or 4 new songs this year, and to put on it. And I spent a lot of time mixing and remixing. And then, laying out the graphics. I had a bunch of pictures of cigar box guitars. That picture on the cover is from my dad's house. I had a display of all the guitars I had made and decided to take a picture of it. And so that's his fireplace. But that's the first 8 cigar box guitars I made.
I want to get into that in more detail. When you say cigar box guitars, are these literally made out of a box that used to have cigars in them?
They are literally made out of a box that had cigars in them. They cigar box guitars go back as far as there have been cigar boxes. And traditionally, they've been used by poor people to create instruments that they could not otherwise afford. And there have been a lot of musicians that got their start on cigar box guitar. One of the most famous is Jimi Hendrix. He couldn't buy a guitar when he was a kid, and so he got himself a cigar box and nailed a stick to it and got a piece of wire and strung it across, with some bolts or whatever, and made himself a guitar, a cigar box guitar, and that's how Jimi Hendrix got started. Carl Perkins is another one that people might know. He's a little before our time, but yeah, cigar box guitars, it's a long and storied tradition, and over the last 30 years or so, there has been a revival And especially lately they become really popular. There's several festivals throughout the year in various parts of the country. I went out to Pennsylvania a few weeks ago, almost a month ago now, and picked up a couple guitars while I was out there. Um, but cigar box guitars, they're genuine instruments. They're basically, I mean, they can be acoustic, they can be electric. I normally do electric. Um, Cigar boxes are not meant to be guitars. And so the acoustics aren't necessarily that great. You know, you're not going to get that full acoustic sound. However, if you put a pickup on something, you can make an electric guitar out of it.
Right.
Like I said, I've got a shovel guitar. I've got 3 shovel guitars that I bought, and I've got one that I'm making right now. The electronics aren't working on it right now, but yeah, they sound awesome. You can take a 2x4 and put a pickup on it and some strings and make a guitar out of it.
Well,
You know?
you'd have to have some luthier skills to do that. I can't do
Yeah.
that.
Well, it's not that hard. Now, see, when you say luthier, I'm thinking acoustic guitar, and then you're getting into really, really talented,
Nah,
stuff.
luthier is a
This,
person that makes
but
guitars. So that is you because you make
let's
guitars.
I do make guitars. I think I make good guitars. People have complimented me on my guitars. I just recently set my shop back up, so I haven't made any guitars in a couple years. But I was showing you that one, the my steampunk. I'm calling it a
Yep.
steamcaster for now. Uh, and yeah, I just finished that one today. So still need to put fret markers on it, but it's a fretless. I thought about trying to do a fretboard, but that would be difficult.
Yeah, I mean it's metal.
It's
You
metal. I could attach it, but the main thing is trying to get the frets level.
oh
And because if you're sitting there playing on them and you got a fret that's higher than all the rest of them, it's gonna deaden out the sound. And, yeah, it's difficult to get the frets level normally on a guitar, and on this thing it would be almost impossible.
you
But
mentioned that most of them have 3 strings. How is that tuned?
that is tuned to an normally it is tuned to an open tuning uh that is 151. So
So
it would be GDG is the normal most standard tuning for guitar box cigar box guitars.
okay.
So it's basically what they used to call a power chord.
Well, it still
Just
is
a
a power chord.
yeah, it still is a
So one
power
of them is
chord.
going to be an octave of each other then.
But one is going to be the octave, so it's going to be 1, the 5, then an octave up.
That
And
probably makes you have to rethink the way that you construct chords when you're playing music because it's going to be different than a normal 6 string guitar.
it is different. It's now the cool thing about it is you can if they're easy to play, and you can basically play them with one finger, because you don't have to worry about major or minor, because none of the chords are major or minor. It's not really a chord, it's a dyad. But anyway, um but you can play songs with just one finger, so they're really, really easy to start out playing, and then you can get as complicated as you want, but you're right. If you want to start playing, you know you only have 3 strings, and so say I want to play a ninth chord. Well, that has 5 tones in it,
Yeah,
and so when I do a ninth chord, I'm playing the 1, the 7, and the 9, and I rely on the context of the music for it to make sense.
yeah, I like
If
that.
if I were to just play it, just normally, it would just sound like crap. But if you play it like at the end of a song, and it in the right way, it fits. Even though there are three notes right next to each other, the 1, the 7, and the 9. But yeah, you really have to. It's both simpler and more complex, because it's really simple to play. Like I said, you can play it with one finger, so anybody can pick it up and just start playing right away. But then if you want to get into more complicated stuff, I mean, you can do whatever you want. And then the 4 string, I just started playing 4 strings, and the 4 string is also an open tuning, and they just add the third on the top. So
Okay.
it would be G D G B. and it's just like playing, an open tuning in G or D on a regular guitar.
The nice
Um,
thing about me being a bass player is I don't have to mess with any of that stuff.
yeah. Well, I haven't made one, but I am going to make a bass.
Oh, nice.
It will be a 3-string bass.
That's
It'll be
okay.
a short scale.
Really, you
Uh,
only need two, but three's fine.
I've seen guitars with two. I want to try to do 3 strings, but the neck, I make the guitar necks out of lumber I can buy at Lowe's. Basically they're 1x2s, which is 3/4 of an inch by 1.5 inches actually. And so the necks are only 1.5 inches wide. And that's one of the reasons I could only do a 3-string bass, is because
Yeah,
the neck is going to
skinny.
be so narrow. But I'm going to have to put a truss rod in. It's going to be more skills than I have accumulated right now. Um, but anyway, yeah, the cigar boxes are fascinating. I got started with them on YouTube. One ran across of my YouTube feed, and I just thought this instrument is great. I have to get one, and I bought one cheap off of eBay that turned out to be a piece of crap, but it got me started. And I saw this guy how he put together, and I figured, well, I can do this. And that's how a lot of people get started doing cigar box guitars, is they see them and they're relatively simple. It's not as complex as putting together like an acoustic guitar. It's and you can do whatever you want. I've got some friends in Cincinnati that like making them out of found objects. So they'll use like spatulas for the tailpiece, and other pieces, different parts, for the different parts of the cigar box guitar. They made me a Millennium Falcon guitar that I spent
Nice.
a lot of money for. That just hangs in my house because I'm afraid to take it anywhere. Um, but you can, yeah, you like I said, you can make guitars out of anything. I've seen them made out of shotguns. I don't think I'll attempt that, but
I want to talk about how you use this specific instrument to make this record, because you could fairly say this is a concept album specifically displaying what this style of guitar could do. And I'm going to read, for the listeners, I'm going to read off some of the liner notes here. A specific part that says, "Boxes Full of Blues is a collection of blues music played on handmade 3-string cigar box guitars, showing that these instruments are more than just novelties or toys." This is a 10-song album
yeah.
that all you use is this style of guitar. So that shows it's possible. Why did you want to make an album limiting yourself to just this style? So, like, I get that that's what you did, but
Well,
why was that your idea?
a lot of it is that I don't want to play 6-string anymore. I'm really into the 3-string. I have no interest in playing 6-string. In fact, I have nightmares about trying to play 6-string now. It's just like too many strings and they're too close together, and it just doesn't work for me anymore. And so I don't know if I'd say I limited myself to it. It's just that this is the instrument I'm using right now. And I also have kind of a commercial interest, because I've started a guitar making company, and I plan on selling the guitars. And
Nice.
for me, this is a um, selling piece. I can tell people, yeah, you can make great music with these guitars.
Here's proof.
Even though they're just 3 strings, and you might think of it as a toy, and they only cost $200-300 or whatever. Um, you can make great music with them. Uh, and so it's there. There's that, because it is kind of a showcase of what you can do with these guitars. And I like the name, Boxes Full of Blues. Um, and so that they all had to be blues tunes because of that. And I do blues anyway. Um, but yeah, it was just I came up with this concept. It's been almost 3 years now, and since I started playing cigar box guitars, and I just wanted to do a blues album of just cigar box guitars. And I only had the 3-string. If I had had a 4-strings, I probably would have put some 4-string songs on there. But I only had 3-strings at the time. But
Tell
yeah,
me,
this is just what I play now. That's the only thing I play. So
Tell me what is happening on Thursday, October 5th. This is time to get people. If you live in Dayton and the Dayton area, listen up, please, to this part because we're going to invite you to an event.
is there something happening on the 5th?
I'm pretty sure there is.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me think. Oh, I got a CD release.
You do?
I got a CD release. That's this album we're talking about. It's going to be at the Yellow Cab. It's going to be at their showcase, the Yellow Cab Showcase. This is in my opinion, Dayton's best open mic. It's a curated open mic. You have to sign up in advance, like 6 weeks in advance. And if the guy doesn't like you after your first performance, you won't play there anymore. I don't know if people realize that. But yeah, it's the best open mic in Dayton. It's kind of a continuation of the musicians co-op that used to play at Canal Street, because Windsor Knotts, the guy hosting it, used to host the Canal Street at the end there. So this is a long, storied tradition with this open mic. Anyway, he's gracious enough to, I've done this twice now. This will be my second time doing this, where I basically took over the night. I requested a date and for my CD release. And I've got 4 other guitarists, some of the best guitarists in the area, and they're all going to come in and play cigar box guitar music. I've got Casey Ott, who plays in a few bands, Cherry Lee and the Hot Rods, and Golden Guy and the Bucking
Bloviators.
Bloviators. Yeah, I couldn't remember the name of it. But he's a really good guitarist. I've got Eric Henry playing, who's kind of a local blues guitar legend.
Yep.
He's just all over the place. Anyway, I've got Todd the Fox, who's also another local musician. He gets all around. And I didn't know he played cigar box guitar. I had to recruit because I needed 4 other people within me. And I had put a thing out on Facebook and he responded. And so I talked him into playing. So now I haven't seen any of these guys play cigar box guitar. So we'll find out. We'll all find out together if you come on out. And the 4th guy is a guy named Cigar Box Scott out of, I want to say Tip City or Troy, somewhere up north. And he, as his name implies, plays cigar box guitars. Now he plays a lot of old time and bluegrass music. So his will be a little different. I know one of the songs was like a 17th century dance number. But I mean, it's a dance tune. People get clapping and it's no matter what century it came from. But it's going to be 5 of us, starting at 7:30 to 10:30. And we're going to play a lot of cigar box guitar music.
So, dear listener, that's this Thursday, October 5th. I'm saying it that way because even though we are having this conversation the previous Thursday, September 28th, if I am doing my job right, this podcast should be up on Monday, October 2nd. So this Thursday, October 5th, just in a couple of days, 7:30 p.m., Yellow Cab Tavern, 700 East 4th Street. Come see blues music played on weird-looking guitars. It will cost you nothing to show up because the Yellow Cab Showcase on Thursdays is free to attend. The house pizza people there, the Pizza Bandit, they run a special on slices. Instead of $5, they're $3.50 on Thursday. So come on out Thursday, get a piece of pizza, have a drink, watch some blues music. Oh, and pick up your copy of this CD. Max, thank you very much for sending it. But you can get your very own copy, listener, by coming to Yellow Cab. So now I want to talk more general. Like we've gone very specific. This is the project you've just made. I want to talk a little bit more general about the genre and your skill set. First of all, I'm going to have to admit this to you. I don't really like to play blues, and I'll tell you why. As a bass player, I find it repetitive, and I don't get to do much. Right?
That is true. You're absolutely correct. As a bass player, you are going to do the same bass lines over and over and over again.
Yeah, and while I understand,
unless you're doing funk or some funky or something like that, you might get something.
And Look, I understand that most of our American music catalog today is based on blues. As a black musician, I respect that blues is a black music form. As a history nerd, I appreciate where it comes from in the history. But when it comes to just grabbing my instrument and doing it, I really don't want to. And also, when I'm listening to it, if you like, when you hear a blues song when it starts, you know where it's going. If it's going to be a 1-4-5 major key song, as soon as it starts, you know where it's going to go. And as a listener, that makes me not very, like, I kind of tune out. So I can tell from having listened to this record that you love this art form. You've got a bunch of originals on here. You've got just a couple of covers, which I'm sure are very, very old songs. So my question to you, Max B. Greene, is what keeps you interested? What draws you in? Why does this genre of music speak to you?
That's a good question. Even when I was a kid, I always liked, for some reason, I was always drawn to the 12 bar form. It would just go through my head a lot, even though when I grew up, I didn't listen to any blues. Till like junior high, and I was introduced to the Blues Brothers, through the movie and stuff like that. That was my introduction to the blues. But I don't know. It's part of it may be, to be honest, I'm on the spectrum. And as somebody on the spectrum, I like familiarity and I like repetition. I used to work with a looper a lot. And so I would have repetitive stuff just playing and then I would jam over it. But I liked the repetitiveness of certain songs. So to me, the repetitiveness of the blues is rather comforting. And I've always been drawn to it. I listen to, metal, and I don't listen to country. It's about the only thing I don't listen to. But I like punk, I like metal, I like even some opera. But the blues is just what I've chosen. You also kind of need a genre to stick to, and this is what's really worked well for me is doing the blues. And then when I do a song like a Beatles song or even I do Seven Nation Army by White Stripes, and even those, they're all minor scale songs. And so I'm doing them even though they're rock songs, I'm doing them in a bluesy, slide guitar style. So it kind of influences the way I play everything, and I like taking songs and putting them in a different style, so even though it's all blues, it's interesting because I'll do Whole Lotta Rosie by AC/DC in a swing blues style,
Okay.
and it works, and nobody else does it. So it's I don't know if that answered your question or not,
Absolutely.
but yeah, I mean the blues go, but my when I was a kid, I was into like Billy Joel and stuff like that, and so I used to be a keyboard player back then. And so yeah, my musical interests are pretty varied. But as far as playing out, it's just blues seems to work well for me. So and you got to have a gimmick, you got to have a shtick, you know. And so this is my shtick.
Well, being the guy that only plays 3-string guitars, it's that's pretty niche. But that's smart. There's going to be a certain amount of people that love that instrument and love that sound, and you're going to have those people are going to probably buy everything you do. So that is really smart marketing. Now I'd like you to think back as far as you can remember. This is a question I ask all the guests. What's the first song that you can remember hearing in your life? As far back as you can remember.
I'm trying to remember, boy. I want to say Jesus Loves the Little Children. I grew up in a Lutheran household. We did a lot of Christian music. But I'm thinking it was probably something along those lines. I probably heard stuff earlier but I can't remember any of it. But I remember even as a kid, I would do it, and I would go around the house with a pretend microphone and sing "Jesus loves the little children," and in a back then that would have been the late '60s, early '70s, and so I was doing it like a Dean Martin style or something, whatever was on the TV at the time. So I always wanted to be a performer. But yeah, that's the earliest one I can remember is something like that.
All right. Here's another one I ask everyone, and I stole this one from Terry Izzy Rock Martin and the Gem City
Oh,
podcast.
I
They're
had an
no longer
interview.
with us.
I did a podcast with them one time. My
No, then
last
you
CD. My
then
last
you've already
CD.
answered this question, but
Oh, I have.
now I want you to answer it for me because you can't find those episodes online anymore. What did your childhood smell like?
Oh, I don't remember that question at all.
Yeah, Izzy Rock used to ask that, so I stole it from him.
What did your childhood smell like? Oh, I don't remember any smells. Um, I don't remember any smells from when I was a kid.
Wow.
I mean, nothing in particular that really. I'm not motivated by smells that much, but um, yeah, I can't think of anything that sticks out.
Did you grow up here in Dayton?
I grew up in Xenia for the most part.
I grew up
Uh,
in Xenia.
yeah, yeah, I went to
How about that? I did not know that about you.
yeah, I grew up in Xenia, graduated in '82 from Xenia High School. Spent a short amount of my childhood, like 3.5 years in Germany, because I was an Air Force brat. Um, but we got back right after the tornado back in '74.
Okay.
So I spent, from fifth grade on through 12th grade in Xenia.
I'm sure you know that Eric Henry also grew up in Xenia.
Oh yeah, well that's where I met him. I was staying with my parents in Xenia, and so I was actually working at a comic book shop in downtown Xenia, and he was 14. He got his first guitar, and he showed up at the comic book shop because he heard I played guitar. So I'm like one of the very first people to ever play with Eric Henry.
So you played with him
Uh,
before he was good. That's what I'm hearing.
well, what made me sick was like 6 months after he got the guitar, he's like beating my butt. I mean, he was just all over it's just like he was a prodigy. At 14, he was just incredible. Um,
That
and
is a
and
cool story.
it made me kind of up my game. But yeah, I did his first gigs I did with him. We played at some hole in the wall bar in Xenia, and I think we played at a high school something or other. Or anyway, I mean, he was still in high school, and so I was this 30-year-old guy playing with these high school kids, which was probably creepy. But I was hanging out with kids anyway because I was working in a comic book shop. So, um, but yeah, Eric and I go back, 30 years almost.
Wow.
It's been a while. Yeah, I've known him since he was like 14. He had long red hair at the time and everything. Now he's gone
I
all gray.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would have no idea that he was a redhead because I met grown
He
up Eric.
and it wasn't that long ago that he had red hair, maybe 10 years ago. And then yeah, he's just gotten older. But anyway,
Well,
we all
I think
have.
we've all gotten
Yeah,
older.
we've all gotten older. But yeah, Eric and I go back a long way. And then I went to Ohio State and didn't work out. Um, with the Asperger's and a whole bunch of other problems, I couldn't attend classes very good. I was having panic attacks and all this other stuff, so I had to drop out of college. And I ended up going out to California and driving a cab for 7 years in Oakland, which was an interesting experience.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I got cut and robbed, lost the use of one of my fingers, lived with a crackhead for like 5 years. It was an experience, let's put it that way. And then I came back to Ohio.
You have a lot of stuff that you could write songs about, is what I'm learning.
I could well the last song on that CD is Oaktown Cabbie
Oaktown
Blues.
Cabby Blues. Well,
And
see,
I
now
wrote
I
that
know. I did
now,
not
and
know
I
that that's
wrote
what that
that
was
about
about.
that is the oldest song on. I wrote that about 30 some years ago
Wow.
when I was driving a cab in Oakland. So that's about driving a cab in Oakland, putting on my working shoes. And I was originally going to call it Working Man Blues, but there's also already a very famous song called Working Man Blues, so I had to call it something else.
Well, and also going specific makes it much more personal to you and your experience. I like that choice. That's a good choice. So let's tell the listeners, where can they find you online? Where can they find you on social media if they want to keep in touch with you?
I've got a website, maxbgreene.com. It's spelled all one word, spelled like the county, with an E on the end. Although if you spell it without the E, that I should be redirected because I got both names. But maxbgreene.com is the best way to find me. Easiest way to remember. I am on Facebook. That is probably the best way to contact me. I have a Facebook link and a YouTube link on my website, along with an email address if you want to contact me. And my website has it'll have gigs and there's videos you can watch of me and stuff like that. So it's got all the usual website stuff. I have all my music will be on Spotify and iTunes, all of that stuff. I've arranged for that, but it's not officially released until next week. So none of it is available until next week. So if you want to hit up my site, I think it's the 1st is when my official release date is online. You'll be able to listen to it and you'll be able to buy it off of, whatever. I don't actually understand all that stuff yet, but yeah, maxbgreene.com is the best way to get a hold of me, and I'll have a page up there where you can download my music and buy it and stuff like that as soon as I can get all that information up.
Excellent. I will link to that in the show notes. One more reminder, dear listeners, if you live in the Dayton area, Thursday, October 5th, this Thursday, starting at 7:30 p.m., come to Showcase at Yellow Cab. You'll see Casey Ott, Eric Henry, Todd the Fox, Cigar Box Scott, and our honored guest today, Max B. Greene, celebrating the release of his new album, Boxes Full of Blues, an album of blues songs played exclusively on cigar box guitars. Max, any last messages for the listeners before we sign off?
No, cigar box guitars are cool.
I did not know that, and I have learned that today. So thank you for teaching me.
Go on YouTube and look up cigar box guitars, and there are lessons on how to make them. There's lessons on how to play them. There's all sorts of stuff. But cigar box guitars is really a phenomenon. I'm finding more and more people that either play them or make them. I've run into a few builders around here. And one of my dreams is to have a festival here in the Miami Valley of cigar box guitar. But we'll see. That'll take some work.
I am sure that you can get that done if you try hard enough. I'm sure.
We'll see. It's have to find a location that would where I could set up vendors. It has to have a big parking lot. Ideally, it would be Yellow Cab, but I don't know if they'd go for it. They may not be able to make enough money off of it, but I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, cigar box guitars are cool. Go buy yourself one, preferably from me once I have them up. That website is Bad Dragons Guitars. Bad Dragon Guitars, yeah, .com. Which has nothing on it right now because I don't have any guitars up there. But anyway, appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, it was fun. Again, thank you very much for your time. And that's again one more time for the listeners. This Thursday, October 5th at Yellow Cab, 7:30 p.m. and maxbgreene.com. That's maxbgreene.com. Thanks, Max.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks again to Max for taking time to talk to me. Dear listener, thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. I hope that, like me, you might have learned something new and useful in today's episode. As a small reminder, this episode is brought to you by Mont Blanc Massif, the first single from my new international duo, We Met in Paris. This week on the You Could Be My Aramis podcast, on Wednesday, I will be introducing you to a musician named Valerie Vaughn. Come on back and meet her. Thanks.